Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Tanika Harris. I am the Director of Communication and Community Relations for the Urban Redevelopment Authority of the City of Pittsburgh. We are so excited that you have an opportunity to be with us this afternoon. We have a lot of items that we want to announce to you and also to provide some great information. I am going to push this over to Chairman Chintalopoli. You do have a quorum. You are able to begin your meeting when you're ready.
Thank you, Director. First order of business is I guess roll call. Just have the record reflect we have all 5 board members present and accounted for. Moving on from there, we will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our February 9th, 2023 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries. I do also want to note that the board met an executive session to be briefed by staff on March 3rd regarding today's agenda. The briefing was for informational purposes only. Moving on, we're going to go into public comment, and I will turn it over to Daniel Grantham.
Hi, our first public commenter comes from Raymond Moore. Raymond, you have the floor for 3 minutes. Let me get my timer up here.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. So you now have the floor and your time starts now. I'll give you a little heads up when your time's almost out.
Okay. All right, my name is Raymond Moore, and I'm the Education Outreach Coordinator at the Fair Housing Partnership of Greater Pittsburgh. My question was regarding, and I actually have 2 questions regarding on the agenda today, regarding 5A, the Ledley Street townhomes. The description of the proposal states that the homes are reserved for households with special needs or that are at risk of homelessness. I understand that the proposal is in the pre-development stage. As you all know, disability is a protected class within the Fair Housing Act. However, special needs is a broad and vague term that encompasses any type of disability. In Pittsburgh, we have an overwhelming need for physically accessible housing. Townhouses are inherently inaccessible for physical disabilities such as limited mobility because of their stacked design. In fact, townhouses are exempt from the Fair Housing Act's design and construction requirements. Townhouses may have an elevator for accessibility, but private elevators are often cost prohibitive. Or at a minimum, a townhouse could include a kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom on the first floor, ensuring that our limited affordable housing funds for Pittsburgh are addressing our needs. Specific need for accessible housing requires intention. My question is, exactly what disability related circumstance is the development being designed for? If that answer is currently unknown, I ask that the pre-development funds include making that determination. The Fair Housing Partnership is happy to meet further on this topic. And then also regarding item 3 on the disclosure agenda, the URA is acquiring publicly owned property for the development. My understanding is Pittsburgh owns those properties, and in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, it recently stated that vacant city-owned houses, sorry about this, trying to do this from my 4 because I'm driving. But my understanding is that the Pittsburgh owns those properties, and given the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's recent investigation into the vacant homes that are city-owned, my question is, can the URA speak to the status of the cities of Pittsburgh's land bank process for conveying properties to the public? The contact point for the land bank on the city's webpage is for the URA. And that concludes my questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moore. The questions specific to Ledley Street are probably best addressed by the development team.
Okay.
So we will make sure to raise those, when we take that item, as well as your generous offer for the Fair Housing Partnership to meet with them. On the question related to city-owned property, yeah, we can make sure that it's clear, both in publicly accessible data, who the contact is, both with the land bank, and then through the city's finance page. The public is also able to, move through the process to acquire city-owned properties directly from the city. And we post those available properties through the finance department's webpage.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Yep.
Our next public comment comes from Devin Taliaferro. Devin, you have the floor are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, your time starts now. I'll give you a heads up when you're about out.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Urban Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors. I am Devin Taliaferro, proud Pittsburgh Public Schools Board Representative for District 2 and first Vice President of the Board of Directors. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment regarding the appointment of Damara Carter as Chief Financial Officer. A graduate of Pittsburgh Westinghouse Academy, 1989, Ms. Carter will become the first African-American woman appointed Chief Financial Officer in the 77-year history of the URA. Indeed, something to celebrate during National Women's History Month. I also serve as the board liaison to our Career and Technical Education Department, also referred to as CTE. So to learn that Chief Carter developed her love for finance and business in CTE is not only a proud moment for our school district in Pittsburgh Westinghouse Academy, but a very proud moment for CTE as well. Career and technical education programs are alive and thriving in PPS. As demonstrated by Chief Carter, CTE is an excellent college prep program. It is also more than that. CTE allows students to explore their passions and talents, and industry partnerships help students participate in work-based learning activities, ultimately providing students 21st century transferable skills that last a lifetime. On behalf of the Board of Public Education and the Pittsburgh Public Schools, congratulations, Chief Carter, on your historic appointment. Thank you for sharing your CTE story. You are proof that Pittsburgh Public Schools alums continue to contribute positively to the success and growth of our region. We look forward to your continued success. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share these remarks.
Thank you. Our next public commenter is Angela Mike. Angela, you have the floor now, and your time starts now.
Greetings to the Urban Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Angela Mike, and I'm the Executive Director of Career and Technical Education at Pittsburgh Public Schools. And I want to applaud the URA on making a phenomenal choice in appointing Damara Carter as the first Black African-American woman as Chief Financial Officer. All of her hard work has led to this moment in time. It started at Pittsburgh Westinghouse High School, with her being the first to graduate from the PPS Business and Finance Career and Technical Education program. Go Bulldogs. Damara credits her CTE program as the jumpstart to her career and finding out that she loved to work with numbers. What a testimony she is for why CTE programs are a viable choice to begin your career while in high school. Interesting enough, at the time, we were both attending CTE programs at Westinghouse at the same time. So as I mentioned to her yesterday, we are sisters through CTE, and we both had a great jump start on our careers prior to graduation. In her senior year, she was so advanced in her program that she was able to go to work at H.J. Heinz. And I was working in a hair salon. Sisters in CTE we are. Damara's appointment showcases how in Pittsburgh we're starting to diversify the workforce in impactful power positions. Damara is a great fit for the new position, and I congratulate her on this amazing opportunity. I also look forward to hopefully partnering and working with the URA and Damara on having CTE students as interns in the future. Lastly, Damara, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for breaking the glass ceiling so other African-American women can rise to senior positions. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have two written public comments. As a reminder, public comment related to the non-voting Lower Hill briefing will be taken during that portion of today's meeting. But for now, we have two other comments related to the appointment of Damara Carter as CFO. The first comes from Nichelle Mickens. I am so very proud to celebrate this well-deserved accomplishment for my sister, Damara R. Carter, the new CFO of the URA. I wish you all the success in your new role. I have no doubt that you will be a phenomenal representation and role model for others who aspire to greatness. Love always, Nichelle. Our second public comment that was submitted in writing comes from Oliver T. Carter. Damara, you worked hard, really, really hard, put in the hours, battled the frustrations, gave of your blood, sweat, and tears, and now finally it all paid off. Congratulations. Love, Mom and Dad, or love, Dad. I added the mom by mistake, but I'm sure. Congratulations, Damara. And that concludes
Thank you.
public comment.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. We'll be moving into the announcements portion of today's agenda. The public comment, I already spoke to the lead here. And before we get in, I turn it over to Director Namani Stanger. I know we have a video that we wanted to share regarding the first announcement.
Yes, if we can roll the video first, that would be wonderful.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank the URA board for allowing me some time on the agenda to share a few words. For all who are viewing this board meeting live and for those who will view it later, know that you are witnessing an event that has never occurred in the city of Pittsburgh. This is the moment that our community deserves to witness. Board Chair Kyle, Director Shushila, thank you. Thank you for leading an excellent and guiding us to this moment. Community, I'm pleased to announce to you Damara Carter, Chief Financial Officer for the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh, who is the first Black woman to hold this position in the history of our city. I'm proud to say that I watched Chief Carter work tirelessly for close to 2 decades in the economic development field to ensure our communities are being served. This is the moment in history that we will never forget, and we should never forget it. I know that Damara is a proud alumnus of Westinghouse High School and the Pittsburgh Public CTE program. She represents the unlimited possibilities for our students and youth to prosper and thrive right here in our great city. Chief Carter, to whom much is given, much is required. I charge you with the responsibility to use your position as an opportunity to affect positive change for the communities that you poured into. I call upon you to share your story so that other people who look like you, talk like you, come from the same neighborhood as you, see themselves in you. And finally, I call upon you to trust your heart, your lived experiences, to make those hard decisions that no leader enjoys, but we know are necessary. That's our assignment, but you can do it. I'm just so proud of you as a friend, just to watch your climb, to see how much you've grown. I know your mom is proud. I'm proud. The community's proud. Now let's just go get it.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Appreciate your words. Today speaks volumes to Damara's expertise, experience, and leadership qualities. Damara is the first Black woman to serve as the CFO of the URA in our 77-year history. In the CFO role, Damara will assume a strategic role in the overall fiscal management of the URA. She will lead accounting and finance functions, short-term, long-term, strategic planning, property management, deal analysis and negotiation, investor relationships, partnership compliance, and employee relations. Already, Damara's leadership and integrity has helped to make the finance department a more cohesive and thriving department. She has successfully digitized and modernized URA's financial systems in the wake of the pandemic. Damara is always available to answer questions and find answers. She's a natural collaborator who works every day to ensure that every staff member understands the complexities of the URA's financial situation. She is a true steward of public funding. For all of these reasons and more, Damara is adored by her team. Personally, I'm very grateful to have her as a colleague and a trusted advisor in the executive team. Kyle?
Thank you, Director. I don't know how much more there is to add from everyone's comments, and Damara, I know you're getting emotional, so I'll keep it short and let some of the other board members, offer remarks as well. But you've been someone quietly behind the scenes of a lot of the work in the authority for so many years, and thank you for that. Your steady, leadership, your patience with a number of us as we learn, to understand, those complexities that the director just spoke to, and for continuing to be a trailblazer. I think it was noted in Angela Mike's comments, and certainly noted in you moving into this role today. So. It is significant, for those reasons, and also, for Women's History Month, and, for everyone, not to embarrass you, your birthday is coming up this Saturday. So hopefully this is, a welcome surprise, but, thank you for all you've done, in this role and behind the scenes, and to support so many things, in the way that you do, still kind of keeping the communities that we serve centered in that work. And with that, I'll open it to any other board members who may have some comments, and I'm sure you'll have some stuff that you want to share with us as well.
I'll simply echo the thoughts that have already been shared. Thank you for all your years of hard work at the URA, for all that you've done for us, and congratulations being promoted to this position.
Trying to get myself together. This is very humbling to me. I've been at the URA for 14 years. So I've been through a lot, and, I'm grateful to the mayor, to the board, to the leadership, to my colleagues, just always supporting me, my team. They knew I were nervous. They're outside my door, cheering me on, and I just continually appreciate that. My kids, they are watching. I have 3 beautiful children, and they're on this meeting watching, and I'm very proud of their mom. I appreciate it, and I'll take the challenge. Let's get it, and I'll continue to do and support the URA for everything that they do. Definitely a proud Westinghouse Bulldog alumni, and always will be here for the kids and try to help as much as I can. So I appreciate it. I accept the challenge, and let's get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Our next announcement is related to the 2023 Enterprise Zone tax credit applications. So James, I know we kind of left you in a tough spot to have to follow all of that, but I'm going to turn it over to you.
You know what? It's great to have the opportunity to be the first or the next announcement after such a joyous one. So congratulations, Damara. I'll try to keep this announcement short and sweet. My name is James Reed, and I'm the Senior Manager of Development Finance And I just wanted to let the public know that the URA and KIZ resources will be holding a webinar on the Enterprise Zone Tax Credit Program, which is run through the Neighborhood Assistance Program through the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This webinar will be on March 23rd, 2023, and it'll be at 11 a.m. We're going to cover all of the basics of the Enterprise Zone tax credit program and how you will be able to apply to the 2023 cycle. Please visit our social media channels or ura.org/events to register. And, you know, this program it's a great incentive program to provide tax credits to businesses or private companies that are undertaking expansion projects or new building projects or relocations within the state, but in particular within Pittsburgh's enterprise zones. So I hope as many as possible will attend and look forward to speaking to you about this program on March 23rd. Thanks.
Thanks, James. If folks want to figure out whether or not they're located inside an enterprise zone, is there a place on our website they can do that, or the state's website?
Yes, there is. I don't have the exact URL, but I believe if you go to ura.org and you look under financial assistance and services, and then navigate to the page for developers, there should be an incentive map that displays, and there's a layer specific to the enterprise zone tax credit. So folks can either type in their address or their parcel number if they know that, in order to see if they're in the enterprise zone.
Great, thank you. As you can see on today's agenda, we have items in residential lending and investments, development services, before the disclosures agenda, and moving on to the non-voting Lower Hill briefing, which Daniel mentioned earlier. So first, in residential lending and investments, we've Crawford Roberts, Ledley Street Homes, and joining for us for this will be Victoria Jackson.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Victoria Jackson, and I am a lending analyst with the Residential Lending and Investments Department here at the URA. Today, I am presenting a pre-development loan request from Amani Christian Community Development Corporation, also known as Amani Christian CDC. Amani Christian CDC requests a loan in the amount of $60,000 to finance the pre-development activities related to the new construction of 2 affordable for-sale townhomes on Ledley Street in the Crawford Roberts neighborhood. The proposed loan will be sourced with HOF 2022 for sale development program funds. The loan will have a 12-month term at 0% interest and carry a 15-year affordability period, deed restricting the property to buyers at or below 80% AMI. The pre-development loan would be used to pay for architectural engineering design services as well as project consultants. The 2 units in this project are a part of phase 1 of Amani Christian CDC's Hill District Renaissance project. Phase 1 will include 10 newly constructed for-sale units in the Hill District. These units are intended to be 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom townhome at a sales price of $150,000. Both units are to be reserved for low-income households as well as households with special needs or experiencing housing insecurity. They plan to begin construction on the units in July 2023 and complete construction in February 2024. In addition to committing their own equity, Amani Christian CDC has secured a commitment from Bridgeway Capital to finance pre-development costs. So once again, we are requesting approval for a pre-development loan in the amount of $60,000 for Amani Christian CDC. Reverend Lee Walls of Amani Christian CDC is also here today to answer any questions you may have about the project. And before I do turn it over to him, I do want to address the public comment that was given earlier. Regarding the public comment regarding clarifications on these units being set aside for households with special needs, this was a question that came up both at the Real Estate Loan Review Committee as well as the HOP Advisory Board, which are earlier steps in the approval process for our projects. These questions were shared with the Amani Christian CDC, and we're currently in conversation about them to get clarification, which we will definitely have before returning for any questions regarding construction financing. So do want to make aware that those issues had also been raised prior to this moment and that we have been in contact with the Monty CDC about them. So with that, I will turn it over for questions.
Thank you, Victoria. Reverend Walls, I see that you're on, and if you had anything else you'd like to add.
So this is where things are handed off to you after the $2 surcharge for money. And you can talk.
Reverend Walls, I don't.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great, thank you.
Not sure what
Good
happened.
afternoon to Board Chair Kyle and to Executive Director Stanger, and all the other members of the URA Board and Victoria. Yes, we are in the beginning stages of implementing our Hill District Renaissance project, which is a project that will provide 20 units of affordable rentals, 12 of which we're working on in the Center Avenue corridor, and we intend to build another 12 units in the middle and the upper Hill District. We are also committed to providing for sale units of housing, and the Ledley Street Homes is the first phase of 5 units. We're here today before you to speak to the 2 units that we're initially building that should be ready for sale by 2024. We are presenting to the Land Bank Board for a adjacent parcel to do the second 3 units of housing. So we're excited. These will probably be the first 2 units of new for sale housing built in the Hill District within the last 5 years. We are excited once again to work with Module Design LLC. These will be modular units, and they will be quality units. There is also a workforce development piece in which we are collaborating with Module to train men and women in the Hill District to construct and be a part of our construction unit for our construction team, I'm sorry, for building these units. So we are excited about the project. We think the community is supporting us. We've received endorsement from the community and via the DRP Development Review Panel. So we are excited to bring this project to our community. And I can take any questions if there are any questions.
Thank you, Reverend Walls. Thank you, Victoria. And any questions or comments from the board?
I had a quick question. Reverend, could you talk a little bit more about the workforce development component that you're working on with Module?
Yes, definitely. When we began this project and we started looking for a GC, we decided to go with modular construction. And one of our considerations was because we believe that modular construction is going to grow in the city and beyond. We wanted those persons who would be interested in the construction industry about learning about this specific kind of construction. It's very different than stick build, requires a detailed kind of specialty. And so we asked Module if they would be interested in helping us to develop a workforce development piece. And our team, our construction team, would learn from Module how to construct these units. And we would subsequently work with them alongside them as we develop some of our other units. So these are the first of about 20 units that we'll be doing via modular. And so we want to develop the capacity to learn the specific trade, the training rather, to build these units.
Thank you so much. And just for a little bit of clarity, is this a paid experience that community members will be able to be a part of, or is it a part of a learning experience that could propel them to different opportunities?
Modular construction is a little bit different than what we would call stick built, which is what we are conventional construction. And so we're going to see that, at least we project to be able to see more of this kind of construction across the city. We are still developing the funding to support those who will want to learn how to do this. So it's kind of early in what we're doing right now. We are seeking foundation funding to help us to sponsor apprenticeships.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you have a sense of how many people or how many jobs would be involved in that workforce development component?
I think that initially we're talking 3 to 5. When you see these units constructed, and we've seen, at least I have, but there have been quite a few done in the East End, East Liberty, Highland Park, that area. And as you see them built, the crew is usually around 10 to 15 at various stages of construction. So initially we're looking at, I think, 3 to 5, and that would multiply as we would do more units.
Victoria spoke to it a little bit, Reverend Walls, but to the questions that were raised around, you know, accessibility for some folks with, you know, with special needs, particularly around physical abilities. You know, townhomes are obviously not conducive, you know, for that. I know you said that, you know, this will be 5 homes, you know, and kind of a part of a broader plan. So you may not know it now, but if you do, can you speak to maybe some sort of unit typology mix, you know, in either future phases, you know, as you're looking to it, where some could be single story homes, you know, that would be able to be fully accessible?
We are open to that. I have not seen to date a market study that says that there are those persons who are handicapped accessible who are looking for sale units.
Okay.
We are providing affordable rental units for that population, and we're very open to that. But we were able to do this particular project through the Federal Home Loan Bank. We received a grant from them, and we specified that we were open to veterans and homeless persons who might be in the market for sale housing. In this particular phase, these are 3-story townhouses, so they would not necessarily be acclimated for a certain population of handicapped accessible persons who would be looking for sale. But we are open, provided we can find the project footprint to build on to build one unit, 1 story. Those are hard to find in the Hill District, but we are open to that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? No. Okay. Seeing none, then entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I can second.
Thanks. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Thanks, Victoria. Thank you, Reverend Walsh. Next on the agenda and development services is in Larmer, the Veterans Place of Washington Boulevard. Joining us for this will be Bailey Knapp.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Board. My name is Bailey Knapp. I am a project manager here at the URA within the Development Services Department. Been working on the Veterans Place campus expansion project now since December, so I'm very excited to come here today to request authorization to accept final drawings, final evidence of financing, and to execute a deed for the sale of the 5 URA-owned parcels to Veterans Place of Washington Boulevard. So it's going to be for the cost of $20,717.35 plus costs. To the left here and highlighted in yellow is going to be the 5 parcels. These are directly adjacent to Veterans Place's current campus, and it's going to be the site of the new development project. So some brief history: in August 2022, the URA board authorized entry into a disposition contract for 5 parcels with Veterans Place. Since then, we have received approval for final drawings, evidence of financing for the remainder of the project costs, all necessary City of Pittsburgh zoning approvals, and MWVE plan approved. Next slide, please. Can I get the next slide? Thanks. So some overview about Veterans Place. Veterans Place is a nonprofit here in Pittsburgh in the Larimer neighborhood that empowers veterans transition from homelessness to home, assist all at-risk veterans to become engaged, valuable citizens who contribute to their communities. I do want to highlight a few of their programs that they do. The Veterans Resource Center is, the point of entry really for at-risk veterans coming in to this programming, and it's actually only one of 15 within the country, and certainly only one here in the Pittsburgh area. They have the Workforce Development Program, which gives veterans the tools and skills they need to secure jobs in our area. And in 2021, 100% of their 93 veterans enrolled in the program obtained sound employment. And then lastly, we have the Transitional Housing Program, which really is the key focal point that ties in to this project here today. This program is designed to build self-sufficiency and independent living skills. And over 80% of the veterans in the program successfully became employed in permanent housing, which is some of the highest success rates in the nation for similar programs. So within this new development that they're doing, the project cost is coming out to around $4.2 million estimate. This new infrastructure is going to be a standalone 3-story multi-purpose facility to house vital outpatient behavioral and health services, as well as a recreational space. And more importantly, it's going to add 8 new beds to their existing 48-bed campus. So on this call is the executive director, Shannon Hagee. Shannon and her team really are just a group of dedicated individuals that I just clearly have no doubt, without a doubt, are dedicated to their mission and really just have been amazing to work with. Just the speed and quality they commit to this project and disposition process is something that I truly think should be modeled after. And I'm excited. I believe the URA is excited, to see this kind of vision, their vision and passion with this new development project come to fruition. So I'm going to pass it on to Shannon to say a few words and also answer any questions that the URA board might have. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Bailey. Thank you to everyone for having us on the call today and continuing to explore this project with us. Veterans Place has been working on this plan for many years now, and we're really excited to move forward and serve more veterans in the area with your support. So Bailey did a fantastic job describing everything about Veterans Place, so I don't want to take up your time. I'll just ask if anyone has any questions. I'm happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Bailey. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? No. Well, I'd echo Shannon, Bailey's thanks for the work that you all do every day. It's important. So excited that we're able to be a partner here and support you, on this expansion that'll allow you to, grow the services that you offer and, continue to take care of, the veterans that have served our country so, well. So thank you very much. And with that, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Great, the motion carries. Again, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the disclosures agenda. If there's any questions, comments from the board on any of the items there. If not, entertain a motion to approve in its entirety.
So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Wonderful. Motion carries. As the slide says, we're going to take a 5-minute break. When we come back for the non-voting Lower Hill board briefing, where we'll move into public comment for that and then briefing by staff and the development team. We'll see everyone soon. Okay, can we get the next slide? So we're moving into the non-voting Lower Hill board briefing for today. You see the agenda there. We'll start off with public comment. I'll turn it over to Daniel. I know we have a number of people sign up.
Yes, the first of 3 live public comments is Ryan Everett. Unfortunately, I can't see the panelists or the attendees list for whatever reason at the moment, so I'm not sure if he's joined us or not. Tanika, can you let me know?
Yes,
hello.
find us.
Okay, Ryan, you have the floor and your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to the board of the URA for letting me speak today. I am a resident of Pittsburgh. I've lived here. I was born and raised here, and I currently live in Bloomfield. I'm 25 years old. I attend concerts. I attend outdoor events. I stand to benefit greatly from the development that's going on at the Lower Hill, Block E. However, I would encourage you all, I understand that this is a non-voting meeting. However, I am expressing my discontent and calling on you to vote against the concert venue. The developers have shown that they do not have, that they are not willing to work with community groups. As far as I could tell, they have not submitted letters of support from the Hill District Registered Community Organization that they originally worked with in 2019. They made changes to their plans, and then they submitted their 101-page briefing directly before the meeting. They've attempted to circumvent the established processes, and in the process, they have cut out the residents of the Lower Hill from the development process. In addition, this project initially took place alongside the Penguins, and as I understand, they were supposed to engage with several different community sources in developing this, one of whom was a radio host. They announced that he would be a part of it. They touted him, they touted his name, and then as far as I can tell, and as far as he has informed me, they completely cut him off from the process. The radio host name is Doran Dickerson. I believe he played for the Steelers. I also engaged several of my friends who all live in Pittsburgh and asked them to write letters of support or letters along similar lines. And so I hope that you will take these things into consideration and vote against this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next public commenter is Wade Lipscomb. Nika, can you confirm that Wade has joined us?
He is on.
Okay. Wade, you have the floor and your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you to the URA board for letting me speak. My name is Wade Lipscomb. I am one of the owners of 333 Construction, which is a new commercial interior company in Pittsburgh. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh. I'm a Pittsburgh Promise alumni, went to Alderdice, went to Penn State, started as a petroleum engineer, and now I made the transition over into construction. I just want to say that I appreciate all the outreach that the Lower Hill Development is doing with minorities. We are a minority-owned company, and this project We are currently working on the FMB core and shell, and we have been significantly involved in this project. We have received the URA small contractor line of credit, which is going to significantly increase our capacity. We are looking to be a part of future development in the Lower Hill and have been in conversations about that. I am personally very appreciative of all the outreach that the Lower Hill Development Group is doing, and also appreciative of the URA for making some changes to a small contractor line of credit. I am happy to see how Pittsburgh is expanding diversity and inclusion, and I hope it continues. Thank you.
Our next public commenter is Danielle Northern. Tanika, can you confirm that we have?
Yes, she is ready.
Okay, you've got the floor and your time starts now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danielle Northern. I'm currently the concierge at the First Source Center. My background is very diverse. So I have a background in outreach as an outreach specialist, career navigator, and entrepreneur. I'm currently employed with the Cameron Group, which is located near the Lower Hill or on the Lower Hill. And I'm led by Dr. Kim Ellis and the Lower Hill Development Team. I'm here Tuesday through Thursday from 10 to 4:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. We offer trainings and through different affiliates, different trades and different things like that. I call, text, and counsel individuals looking for employment, entrepreneurs looking for opportunities, and those interested in construction trainings or jobs, primarily on the Lower Hill site. I provide a weekly report to the Buccini and Polling Group, and this information is then processed and acted upon. I also do a weekly call with Dr. Ellis and other members of the development team and participate in outreach events that support our partners, such as the Master Builders Association and Pittsburgh Public Schools careers and technical education programs. I do believe our work is important and vital to the Hill District and the entire city of Pittsburgh, and I'm proud to represent the First Source Center. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the live public comment that we received. We did receive 4 written public comments from Jen Smith, Chelsea Pack, Daniela Bacallo, Alana Ricala Delaney, and Alexander Poos, and their letters were similar in content, so I'm going to read them as a single submission. Jen Smith, Chelsea Pack, Diana Bacallo, Alana Ricala Delaney, and Alexander Poos are youths or young adults living in Pittsburgh who enjoy going to live events and concerts. They stand to benefit from the construction of the proposed concert venue and parking garage on the Lower Hill Block E, but are urging the board to vote no on the construction of the concert venue and parking garage. The project will provide little benefit to existing residents of the Lower Hill, and the developers have repeatedly attempted to circumvent the existing approval and community outreach processes in place. In addition, the proposed concert venue will be run by Live Nation, a company under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice for breaches of antitrust law. The profits from the concert venue will be directed away from the city, and its existence will serve as another reminder of the land that was stolen from the Black community to construct the igloo. And that completes public comment.
Thanks, Daniel. We'll move into URA staff briefings. I know we have a number of staff joining us, so I'm not sure who's coming up first, but I'll turn it over to them now.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Hannah Swanbeck. I am counsel to the URA,
and I am going to be joined by Julia McMahon, the URA's project manager for the Lower Hill development. Today, Julia and I will be providing the URA board and the public with a second briefing on the takedown of Block E within the Lower Hill site. As a reminder, no formal action will take place today. On the right-hand side of this screen is an image of the entire Lower Hill site. Block E is approximately 2.5 acres and will contain a parking garage, entertainment venue, public safety facility, and commercial space. Block E is situated across Logan Street from FNB Tower, which is currently under construction on Block G1. Block E is owned by the URA's co-seller, the Sports and Exhibition Authority of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, also known as the SEA. It is being developed by PAR, the Pittsburgh Arena Real Estate Redevelopment Limited Partnership, and the Buccini Polling Group, or BPG. In order for the co-sellers and development team to close on the Block E project, the URA and SEA boards must provide their final approval. Prior to considering any votes on the Lower Hill project, the URA board has committed to briefing the public on the project. Today's presentation is to inform the board and the public about the status of the Block E project in preparation for that final approval. So to reiterate, there is no formal action today. Next slide, please. Thank you. On October 18th of 2019, the URA had a special board meeting where the Lower Hill Block E project was publicly presented. At that meeting, the URA board preliminarily approved the Lower Hill Developer LLC as the redeveloper for the takedown of Block E. The URA board also preliminarily approved of the conceptual design plan for Block E and the presentation of a parking tax diversion, as well as the execution of documents to implement the PTD were approved. Since preliminary approval of the conceptual development plan for Block E in 2019, the designs for the project have evolved. Next slide, please. Changes to the design of Block E were discussed in November of 2022. Also reviewed at the November 10th briefing were outstanding items needed for the takedown of Block E, as well as a summary of the community benefits to be delivered with Block E. This slide shows the view of Block E from the corner of Logan Street on the left and Wiley Avenue on the right. The parking garage is on the left-hand side of the slide, and the lobby of the entertainment venue is located at the intersection of Logan and Wiley. The Block E entertainment venue will be leased and operated by Live Nation, and the URA Retail Incubator, which we will discuss a little later, is located on Wiley Avenue to the right of the lobby. This slide shows the view of the Block E parking garage from Bedford Avenue on the left and Logan Street on the right. There's a pedestrian and vehicular access point to the garage on Logan Street. Per the term sheet for blocks B and E, entered into by PAR, the SEA, and the URA on October 18th of 2019, a public safety facility is to be included in the Block E project. The 3-bay public safety facility will be located at the upper corner of Bedford Avenue, with entrances located on Fullerton Street. And this slide shows the back of the entertainment venue at the corner of Wiley Avenue on the left and Fullerton Street on the right. There are images of Hill District musicians that are in between vertical windows, which are designed to look like piano keys. Fullerton Street will be converted into a one-way street starting at Wiley Avenue and moving in the direction of Bedford Avenue. Next slide. The comprehensive amended and restated option agreement between the URA, SEA, and PAR governs the development of the Lower Hill site. The development team has completed the first 5 steps of the approval process for the takedown of Block E. They have secured preliminary board approval for the design and redevelopment of Block E, which is step 7. And now they're in the pre-final board approval board period, step 9, as well as completing step 6, which is the final submission of takedown materials for Block E. Several items for the takedown are outstanding, but URA and SEA have been in communication with the development team to receive those materials, which they continue to regularly submit for review. We'll now provide an update on those items, some of which are outstanding. The completed items are the community review of Block E, the Block E Final Land Development Plan, or FLDP, and the First Amendment to the Preliminary Land Development Plan, PLDP. Outstanding items include financials, an updated Block E minority-owned and women-owned business enterprise participation plan, and a workforce development plan, and urban open space updates. Next slide, please. Thank you. The development team has participated in several community meetings to introduce the Block E project to the public. On October 3rd, the development team was part of a, quote, neighborhood level review, which was hosted by 2 community organizations, the Hill District Consensus Group and the Hill District Collaborative. Meeting attendees were invited to fill out scorecards, which resulted in an overall C+ grade for both the PLDP amendment and the Block E project. On the slide, however, are only the scorecard results for Block E. As a result of the public's feedback, the Hill District Consensus Group provided a letter of support for the Block E project, which we have under review. On October 17th, the development team presented the Block E project to the community in a development activities meeting, which was hosted by the City of Pittsburgh Planning Commission. The community was given the opportunity to ask questions of the development team and provide commentary on Block E and the Lower Hill project more generally. In accordance with the option agreement, the development team has submitted multiple letters of community review. In total, we've received 14 letters of support for Block E, 2 of which have come from Hill District registered community organizations. At the November board briefing, the board requested an update on Block E's status with the Development Review Panel, or DRP. On April 1st, 2020, the development team presented the Block E project to the DRP, which received an initial scoring of 80%. However, due to a variety of factors, the Block E project was delayed and revised. The development team was asked to resubmit the full Block E project to DRP for review in 2022, which the development team declined to do. The development team has indicated that they do not plan to further engage with the DRP for Block E. However, on February 1st, 2023, the development team presented the Lower Hill PLDP amendment to the DRP. And this presentation occurred just several days after the Planning Commission approved the PLDP on January 24th, 2023. In October of 2022, the development team participated in the Contextual Design Advisory Panel meeting. Feedback from the CDAP was largely positive. Any constructive criticism received resulted in a few changes to the Block E design. On January 10th, Department of City Planning held its first public hearing and action for Block E and the Preliminary Land Development Plan amendment. Neither item advanced to a vote on this date because a submission of 101 pages was received shortly before the meeting. So the Planning Commission asked the development team to host a community meeting to answer any questions from the public about the submission, and subsequently issued a continuance on the proceeding. The community meeting was held by the development team on January 19th via Zoom. And at the second planning public hearing and action held on January 24th, both Block E and the PLDP amendment were approved. Julia will now review the items needed for takedown of Block E, which are still outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. As Hannah said, my name is Julia McMahon, and I am a project manager in the Development Services Unit. And I'm going to start with going over the outstanding items, starting with financial information. URA staff requested specific financial information from the development team that would allow staff to complete a financial review for the Block E project. The development team has responded by providing the majority of what was requested. However, key information is outstanding. URA staff is unable to finalize its review without this information. URA staff has followed up with the development team concerning outstanding materials. Next slide, please. Next item is minority and women-owned business enterprises. The option agreement requires the development team to demonstrate good faith efforts to reach the city's MWBE goals of 25% minority-owned and 10% women-owned business participation. On June 16, 2022, the development team received approval from the City of Pittsburgh's Equal Opportunity Review Commission for its preliminary Block E MWBE plan. The commission-approved plan lists goals of 30% minority-owned and 15% women-owned business participation. On February 14th of this year, the development team shared a supplemental preliminary Block E MWB plan that was drafted by a potential contractor for Block E. The development team indicated to URA staff that they did not intend to seek any additional approvals for the MWB plan, but intend to submit updates as the project advances. Regarding workforce plans, the option agreement states the development team is to demonstrate a good faith effort to reach the city's workforce goals of 25% minority and 10% women participation. The development team has committed to maximizing local and minority workforce inclusion on the project. Because the development team has not signed a contract with a contractor, it is difficult for the development team to provide meaningful updates on the preliminary MWBE and workforce plans at this time. Next slide, please. Urban open space. Block E does not contain any urban open space, but like all developed parcels on the Lower Hills site, Block E will trigger the creation of a particular amount of urban open space. The acreage requirement will be met by the development of Block F2. The development team provided a letter of intent for Block F2 to the SEA and URA on March 7th of this year. Next slide, please. We're going to go through the community benefits. The 2019 term sheet states that the development team is obligated to fulfill several community benefits with the takedown of Block E, Block B, and the development of the site. The Block E benefits are a rescue station and URA retail incubator space within Block E, coordination between the venue operator and New Granada Theater, and delivery of a parking tax diversion. Other term sheet obligations are capitalization of a local economic revitalization tax assistance, LRTA, bridging the funding gap for Curtain Call, upgrades to the Ammon Recreation Center, and delivery of a first source center. I'll now go through these items one by one. Next slide, please. We're going to start with the rescue station. The term sheet stipulates the construction of an approximately 2,500 square feet turnkey City of Pittsburgh rescue station with at least 3 bays. In November 2022, the development team increased their commitment to the rescue station from $1.2 million to $1.6 million. The development team has indicated that they have shared a draft development agreement with the City of Pittsburgh regarding the funding gap on this rescue station. Regarding the incubator space, the development team will similarly deliver a retail incubator space to be leased to the URA. It will be located on the ground floor of Wiley Avenue. Next slide. New Granada Theater Coordination. The development team is responsible for ensuring that the entertainment value operator coordinates its programming with the New Granada Theater. The groups are presently negotiating a non-disclosure agreement, which will allow for further coordination to occur. The development team has shared a correspondence from Live Nation to the City of Pittsburgh Planning Commission. This correspondence contains a commitment from Live Nation to book 25 events per year for 3 years after both the New Granada Theater and Block E venue open to the public. Next slide. Starting with the LRTA, the development team is required to capitalize 50% of the owner payments of the Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance, or LRTA, for the benefit of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund. The development team has made material progress in their attempts to monetize the portion of the LRTA that will benefit the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund. For the parking tax diversion, the development team is seeking term sheets from several banks for the monetization of the Greater Hill District Affordable Housing Fund from the Block E parking tax diversion. And Curtain Call, the development team has submitted a letter of intent related to Curtain Call in December of 2022. The development team is required to fill the funding gap for the Curtain Call art installation, tentatively to be located on portions of Block A and Block B. The development team has stated that public and private funds have been secured for curtain call. Next slide, please. Regarding Ammon, the development team has made $100,000 worth of improvements to the Ammon Community Recreation Center's Rec to Tech program. The term sheet requires the development team to deliver additional items related to Ammon, such as the installation of a multi-purpose space for community celebrations and deck hockey, and the refurbishment of a playground and a basketball court. The development team met with the city of Pittsburgh on March 7th to discuss the next improvements at Ammon. And finally, the development team has opened a First Source Center on Center Avenue for the benefit of workers, contractors, and businesses. And this concludes the staff's portion of the briefing for the Lower Hill Block E. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Hannah.
Yep.
I know we're moving into the development team briefing next. I don't know if the board has any questions specifically for staff, or if we want to take all of those together. Should there be any after the development team briefing? Okay. Let's do it that way then. I know there's a number of folks from the development team that are going to be presenting. I believe a number of you are in a room together, so I'm not sure who's going to lead off, but I'll turn it over to you now.
Hey, hi, I'm Chris Puccini. Can you all hear me? Good. That's a good sign. Thank you all for having us today. We have a presentation. My understanding is that the URA was going to drive.
Yeah, Chris, I think tell them next slide in advance.
Okay, great.
I believe
Thank you
staff
so
has it on
much.
there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. You can head to the next slide. Great. Thank you so much. Well, hi, my name is Chris Puccini. I'm co-president of the Puccini Polling Group. Thank you for having us this afternoon. We're going to try to make it as quick as possible. Today, we're requesting approvals for the final takedown of the Lower Hill Parcel A. It's a $110 million infrastructure and economic development project, and it sustains our efforts to redevelop and reinvest in the historic Hill District. We fought to keep this project alive, all while improving it, and all within one of the most challenging economic climates in the past half century. We've taken in a lot of feedback. We've made a lot of important updates since the November briefing and from the Planning Commission meetings we've had in between. In response to guidance from the Planning Commission, which approved this FLDP in January, just a few weeks ago, physical changes have been minimal, but very consistent with what was first introduced in 2019. And we believe, despite minimal changes, have had a very positive impact overall. Just to give you a few examples, what you'll see today, I personally decided to remove the outdoor component as I was really concerned about the potential noise pollution to our neighbors. In early January, we issued a response to concerns raised by our partners at the EMC about our implementation of the CSIP. And we basically confirmed the groundbreaking progress we've made, and we clarified some technical points of compliance. Two other big economic impacts. Since then, we've included a $2 per ticket surcharge on all tickets at the Live Nation for up to 10 years. And we've also increased our economic commitment to build out the structure of the public safety facility. If we could go to the next slide, please, which is the agenda. Actually, I'm sorry, no, if you can go back, we're there already. On the agenda, as I said, we're going to try to keep this to 20 minutes. These are the things, the items that we're going to hit today in our presentation. Next slide, please. So you can see there, we're here to talk about Block E. It's 2.5 acres of our 28-acre Lower Hill site. As a reminder, FNB Tower, which is parcels G1 and 4, were approved back in 2021. Feels like a lifetime ago. And that project today is 400 feet out of the ground. We just received our glass 2 days ago. Glass is going up today, and that'll deliver next spring. So before you know it. Our project that we're here to talk about today, Parcel E, this will increase our combined investment up to $350 million in the Lower Hill. So we're going to add about $100 million investment to the $250 million investment that is well underway. And we're really excited to put another tower crane or two up in the Pittsburgh skyline, and as well as in the historic Lower Hill area. The next slide, please. It simply put, this this program that we're sharing today that was approved by the Planning Commission. It is an indoor-only venue with seating for 450 guests. The parking garage component is 910 spaces. The retail, which will be on the ground floor along Wiley Avenue, we're going to have our business incubation for the community there, which we're really excited about. And as previously discussed, we're going to build the public safety facility with 3 bays for the EMS and the rescue vehicles for this, for this whole community. I think as exciting, we've got a reinvestment plan that extends the massive community impact that's already undergoing on the F&B project. And really here in the Lower Hill, we have one of the most impactful community reinvestment projects in America, if not the most impactful project in America. And it's years underway now. And unlike back in 2019, when we were sort of talking about the prospects and our vision, we're actually not just hitting, but we're really surpassing our community impact targets, which we're very excited about. And I want to reiterate that we acknowledge that there have been changes to the structure that we're going to build here, but we believe them to be very minimal with significant positive impact to that. We're going to talk a lot about afterwards, the economic impact. So I'll save that for my partner, Bomani House, at that moment. If you wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind taking it to the next slide. I'd like to hand it over to my partner, Amici Aka of Clay Cove Capital. Amici.
Hey, Chris, thanks for the introduction. My name is Amici Aka. I am the co-founder and managing partner of Clay Cove Capital. We are a 100% minority-owned real estate investment and private equity firm. We were a major, or are a major investor in the F&B Tower, and we will be a major investor in Block E. This is exciting to us for many of the reasons that Chris mentioned. We also see that this is exactly what you want for transformative development and really building community. And this is at the next stage of bringing together a true live, work, play community that all major urban areas strive for, and what we're achieving here in Pittsburgh. So I'm very excited. My firm is committed to this investment and many more to come as we build out this amazing new neighborhood that will attach the historic Lower Hill to other parts of the city and make it more accessible and also truly special within the city of Pittsburgh. Now I will turn to Dr. Ellis to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amici. And thank you to the URA board for having us for this briefing today. On this slide, I really want to emphasize that we're always living in a historical present. All of the people, these are all the people that are stretched across this entire development project. But I want you to pay attention to the people that are highlighted in yellow, because these are all either current Hill District residents or recent Hill District residents with long-standing ties. You see that we're cut across government organizations, community organizations, the actual development team, workforce, and moving on to construction design, marketing, and communications. And last but not least, we have myself as Director of Community Arts and Culture and Bomani House as our Vice President of Development, working with the development team. So we're very proud to be here. As I move on to the history, the next slide, please. I just want to remind us all that we are living in a historical present, and that when it comes to our history, I just don't want us to be trapped in tragedy, right? So next slide. I'm always here to remind you that the Lower Hill District was created, at least partially, by 10 to 12 African-American families in 1827. We don't actually begin our history with the Great Migration. We're literally foundational to the state of Pennsylvania and the city of Pittsburgh. Next slide. And so one of the interesting aspects about the history, which I'm going to talk about throughout all of Block E whenever I speak, is that we participated in what was called colored conventions. And many of them occurred right there in Bethel AME Church, which is right on the Lower Hill District site. We moved on in 1841 to, participate in the Pennsylvania Colored Convention, which is very important in terms of changing the laws of Pennsylvania. Next slide. And so when we talk about the creation of the Lower Hill and this groundbreaking in 1957, this is the initial image of the Lower Hill. As you see, there were plans not just for the civic arena, but for housing and a full neighborhood. And this was the first urban redevelopment project, not just in the city of Pittsburgh, but in the entire nation. So the burden and the weight of urban redevelopment was on Pittsburgh's shoulders and apparently is on Pittsburgh's shoulders again. Next slide. As you can see in the upper right corner, I'm always reminding us that, that is the civic arena there. Frankie Pace, who is the head of the Hill Citizens Committee and the only layperson on the Model Cities Committee, helps to organize these protests and had set and helped organize this billboard that said, "Attention URA, no more redevelopment beyond this point," because this was not an equitable development. But now we have an opportunity to get it right. This time, only the second time in our history. Next slide. And so you see, this is what the Hill District looked like in 1939 versus what it looked like in 1967. Does it look like those original plans? No. Again, this is the opportunity for us to get it right this time. Next slide. And so we are getting it right. This was our groundbreaking for the First National Bank Financial Center. This was the groundbreaking of Big Tom's Barbershop, in which we invested. And you also have the ribbon cutting of the First Source Center. So all of these new openings and new beginnings. Next slide. When it comes to community engagement, I want to clarify and also combat misinformation that you heard prior to our presentation. We have extensive community engagement across all sectors of the Hill District and even the city of Pittsburgh. On the right side, as you see, because we were in COVID, we've done virtual sessions, we've done Lower Hill District economic impact sessions, we've done contractor information sessions. All of those have been virtual, but we also have in-person sessions. We host people in the Lower Hill suite in PPG Paints Arena. We've had a job fair at the First Source Center. As you see, that's our street team. We're showcasing our t-shirts. We've had in-person meetings with most of the 5 RCOs. This one in particular that's shown was a very big one and a joint meeting between the Hill District Collaborative Voices and the Hill Consensus Group, one of the oldest groups in the historic Hill District, during which we received the score. So we'll talk about that in the future. And then of course, we've got Vince DeLee of FNB committing to Pittsburgh Promise. And as you heard, our investor, Amici Aka, having a great time at the Hill District Barbecue. So we have extensive community engagement across the board. We're also on social media. We're everywhere technically. Next slide, please. So we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. You've seen our ads. We promote our construction. You can catch us on your phone. You can catch us on your desktop. You can see that ad for the contractors information session there, right in the center on the left, right on the right side in the center. So we're present. All you have to do is look up the Lower Hill Redevelopment. Find us on lowerhillredevelopment.com. Find us at the First Source Center. We're there. And by the way, well, I'll get to the First Source Center. Next slide, thank you. And so getting into the community engagement, we have engaged with all 5 RCOs. We have letters of support from 2 RCOs and that is the Hill District Collaborative Voices and the Hill District Consensus Group, which, as I mentioned, is one of the oldest in the Hill District community. What's also really important is this combination between the DRP and why we received the development scorecard from the Hill District Collaborative Voices and the Hill Consensus Group. And it's really just, it's a theoretical and ideological battle. And it is simply that one group believes that there needs to be a smaller committee that will review everything before the development team gets to speak to the community. They believe that they should be the gatekeepers. The other group, the Hill Consensus Group and the Hill Collaborative Voices, believes that everybody in the community should have the opportunity to hear the developer and score and weigh in and continue to push the developer to do what they agreed to do, and so on and so forth. That's it. That is what is happening in the Hill District. So let's get to the DRP. We presented to the DRP in 2019. We received a score of 89%. And then when we came back to present, we were asked to resubmit. We respectfully declined resubmitting, but everything that we did submit covered the PLDP and covered everything that we have presented to Block E, to all 5 RCOs and to all of these government organizations from the planning session and the Urban Redevelopment Authority in the past and in the present. We've presented all of the same information. We simply respectfully declined to resubmit to the DRP. One reason in particular, the PLDP that was referenced earlier, we actually submitted that in the fall. We never received any type of notification to present until February of 2023. We find that unacceptable. There's not an adequate respect for the development timeline. And also there was a consistent moving of the goalpost. So to correct, many of the misconceptions, we have met with all 5 RCOs. We have support letters from 2 of the organizations that did score us. They created their own development review process. The reason why we received the C+ is because they started with 0. They didn't start with 1. And also some of the residents were confused about where housing played a role in Block E. There is no housing. We only have the Housing Opportunity Fund, but there's actually no housing. So the development review panel from the Hill Collaborative Voices and Hill Consensus Group came together and realized what the issue was. But they're transparent, so they passed on the score anyway. And that's why we received the 2 letters of support, because they knew what was going on. So I can't emphasize that enough. I think that I have covered the engagement here, so I'm going to move on to the next slide, please. That's just for your own edification. And if there's any questions, we'll come back to this slide. Next slide, please. And so now I want to pass it to Boris Kaplan, our Senior Vice President of Development for the Buccini Polling Group.
This is Boris Kaplan from the Buccini Polling Group, and I've had the pleasure of working on this project since 2018. I'm hoping to pick up some time here in our presentation, as some of these next slides were very capably presented by Hannah a few minutes ago. While we're on page 17, I just want to highlight that we're certainly very excited about this project and the fact that it's moving forward. And also its kind of centrality, the fact that it has a very important main corner at Wiley Avenue and Logan that it's anchoring. Also wanted to note that this design that's been approved really this whole effort's been led by a local architecture firm called Desmond, and they have not only committed but also indeed followed through in mentoring and including local up and coming and diverse design professionals in this effort, which is very, very significant and speaks to the implementation of our M and WBE plans. Next slide, please. I think this was covered. We can move on. Just want to stop for 1 second here at the corner of Wiley and Fullerton. I think we've made the point that there are some series of legacy elements that have been designed into the program. This one celebrates the vibrant history at the important corridor of Wiley along Wiley Avenue. Next slide, please. Public safety facility also has a moment of vibrancy at the corner of Fullerton and Bedford Avenue. May be tough to discern from the rendering on the screen, but if you zoom in, there are additional design elements and murals that speak to the legacy of the pioneering Freedom House ambulance service from the Hill District. And it's a great opportunity to commemorate that important history with this Block E project. Moving on, please. Just real quick here, but this is the ground plan and the ground plane that Chris described earlier, with activation, not just with entrances to the music venue, but certainly the importance of the incubator along Wiley Avenue and additional retail elements along Logan, creating elements of interest along Wiley, along Logan Street, along Bedford, and also along Fullerton Street. Next slide, please.
So good afternoon. This is Craig Dunham with the Pittsburgh Penguins and PAR. I do want to brief the board on an evolution in our approach and project delivery. In the takedown notice and the materials provided up to this point, the concept was that the partnership of BPG PAR, Lower Hill Developer, and the specific entity Parking Partners 23 would be developing the venue and garage in its entirety. The venue would be leased to Live Nation as a tenant and operator, and Parking Partners would be separately leasing the street level retail. What's taken place over the last few months, particularly in response to some of the economic challenges that we're all experiencing, is a strategy that adjusts the capital stack essentially. And I'll walk folks through that at this point. Parking Partners would continue to advance the entitlements and the takedown of Block E. They would mobilize on the site with the contractor Carl Walker, establish site controls, site demolition and grading, and the construction of the garage would advance. We've explored some efficiencies in construction and creating a shared foundation along the proposed property line. That would be advanced, and then the site would be subdivided into the two parcels, E1 and E2, which have been described in planning documents and in the takedown documents. At that point in time, PAR would acquire the E2 parcel, which is the venue parcel. We'd enter into a ground lease with a partnership being formed by Live Nation and an affiliate of Fenway Sports Group, which many of you know is the owner of the Pittsburgh Penguin franchise. And a new venue corporation company would be established. That entity would complete the design, construction, and permitting of the improvements, operate the venue, and also engage in the leasing of the retail spaces, including the Wiley Avenue incubator space. Essentially, we're making an adjustment in how the project's delivered. We're bringing in two very well-capitalized partners to achieve that, and expanding the commitment to the arena district, the arena facility, the Lower Hill, and Pittsburgh at large with the Fenway organization. And essentially at the end of it, you have the same building program, the same economic impacts, and the same community or investments. We've adjusted how we achieve those by bringing in new roles and new partners that are established within Pittsburgh on the project. Thank you. Next slide, please. We wanted to spend a minute talking about the urban open space that Hannah and Julia outlined. We described this first in the preliminary land development plan and the need to vacate the unconstructed portion of Lower Wiley. Both of those major steps have taken place in the last month with the thanks of many organizations within the city and agencies. We can now, as we did this week, initiate the takedown process, the approvals process for the F2 urban open space. As we described in the engagement with the Planning Commission, we'll be doing that through phasing. The upper portion that is a plaza and a continuation of the green space would be completed as part of a first phase. It completes a portion of an accessible pathway. That would be done commensurate with our activities on Block E. And then either F1 or Block D become the trigger event for the second portion, which would be the western half of the F2 open space, completing the vision that you see on the screen for a public civic scale open space network and accessible pathway along the historic Wiley Avenue corridor. Next slide. These are some images of the updated letter of intent that we provided. The character of the open space improvements builds on what's already established in Frankie Pate Park, including elements of public art, places for gathering of different scales, and a network of stairs and ramps that navigate the hillside from Washington and eventually all the way up to Crawford Street. Next slide, please. Back to Boris, I think.
Yes, Craig, thank you for that. We did have a chance earlier to hear an update on various elements of, really all elements of the term sheet from 2019 that expressed a series of developer commitments. Certainly the progress is significant and very measurable. In the case of the incubator, certainly the location, the prominent location along Wiley Avenue, it is one that's been built into the design. There is a draft lease that's in front of the URA for consideration. There's also plans in the next few months to find an operator through a URA RFP process. So this is advancing well, and it represents a significant investment in Greater Hill business owners. There is approximately $1.5 million of construction and below market rent, really free rent, that is built into these plans, and that creates a significant benefit to adjacent communities. Next slide, please.
Boris, before you continue, I know Director Williamson has a hard stop here in a few minutes, so wanted to give him an opportunity to ask any questions or comments, and then we can let you get back into the presentation. Apologies.
Thanks, Chairman Gentilopoli, and thank you for this very thorough presentation. I have a couple of questions, if that's all right. One is, yeah, I mean, among the, I don't know, potentially transformative aspects of this development is the opportunity here to actually really take on and challenge occupational segregation within the construction industry. And that is something that I am particularly interested in making sure that we follow through on and kind of adjust what we're trying to do, what you guys are trying to do, if the steps that we laid out initially are not actually kind of meeting the goals that we set, or not, frankly, not accomplishing as much as they possibly could. And so I had asked back in October, November during the last briefing for a specific workforce updates on how the development team is doing on meeting the diversity goals set forth for Block E. I understand you don't have jobs numbers yet. I'm sorry, for Block G. I understand you don't have jobs numbers yet for Block E. But I don't know that URA staff ever received those updates. Certainly the board hasn't, and we would very much like to see a breakdown of how your workforce development efforts have gone in detail, not just sort of a summary of what the programs are, but how are they actually working. And I know there's supposed to be under the CSIP, maybe inappropriately named considering it's Women's History Month, but a manpower report. The CSIP agreement calls for on a monthly basis. So I don't know if that is happening, but so anyway, you can answer, either respond now or ideally follow up with more significant detail at some point after today.
Well, let me briefly address that, Mr. Williamson, since you have to go. I apologize. We were almost done with our workforce summary, and we had some new developments and challenges that were presented to us that we actually decided to change. And I'm so glad that we're right here on the public safety facility, because the Planning Commission made a recommendation to capture the cultural history and legacy of the Freedom House that was created in the Hill District. And so we actually followed up with that. And most recently, we have created a new partnership with UPMC for their Freedom House 2.0, direct recruitment for EMT technicians. And so like that's another program that we have. So honestly, like things were happening in the fall and we were really excited to add on to that workforce summary. And just this morning I said, when are we sending off our letter to Sam Williamson? So after this meeting, you will absolutely get it. It's actually too much to cover. I mean, we also received information that like you all wanted us to be brief, right? So it was like summary or workforce. So you'll receive more in writing. And I think with regard to the contracting, Bomani may want to address that. You also heard from Wade Lipscomb earlier. We do a matchmaking, but Bomani, did you want to say anything directly to Mr. Williamson about this particular topic?
No, I think you've covered it well.
Okay, thank you. So stay tuned, Mr. Williamson, and Bomani still has to present, and so do I. So if you can hang on just for a few more minutes, you'll hear what we've been doing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, perfect. If I can just pick it up from where we were in the public safety facility, I think this matter has been covered previously, so we can move on. Next slide, please.
So I will touch on the efforts over the past year in working with the New Granada Theater and Live Nation. Last year, there was an exchange of information about the New Granada plans with Live Nation. They were able to evaluate them. We made this commitment that staff has confirmed about booking events over a 3-year trial period by Live Nation and promotions. We also included a commitment to making parking spaces available on the Lower Hill for New Granada events and also possible charitable support to the appropriate organization affiliated with New Granada. After the new year and with the Planning Commission approvals behind us, we convened a work session with the New Granada Theater operator, project team, Live Nation. Live Nation has offered to provide some models that give different approaches to programming, booking, and event operations that could become the basis of an agreement. We're sorting through some pieces and parts of a non-disclosure agreement at the moment, and Live Nation stands ready to assist the New Granada project team and continue the discussions around programming. Thank you. Next slide. I think staff captured this well. There was an initial investment at Ammon, and just this week, in fact, a meeting was convened with city planning and public works and Ammon staff and Macedonia Church and ourselves to talk about the status of a broad Hill District facility planning exercise, and then being led by the planning department. Once that's completed, Public Works and Parks and Recreation will do a detailed analysis of Ammon Recreation Center, identify prioritized needs, and will engage and look for avenues of support participation. So that engagement continues, and we look forward to what's next at Ammon. Next slide, please.
We'll talk further about the First Source Center in just a minute. Just while we're here, I wanted to highlight that we do report on monthly metrics at the First Source Center related to the promotion of training opportunities and job placements. Those monthly reports are sent to the EMC along with the URA and SCA. We also do a quarterly reporting for the SCA and URA on both MWBE inclusion and, of course, workforce initiatives, of which the First Source Center is really one of the primary elements, along with on-site workforce diversity. Next slide, please.
Again, staff outlined the overview of the curtain call. We have focused on a new location on Block A. It was an open space adjustment that needed to take place in the preliminary land development plan amendment. We've submitted a letter of intent back in December. And we're finalizing a final land development plan package and takedown notice that will go into the URA and SCA, as well as city planning in the coming days. And some renderings that were produced by Hood Design, they give you a sense of scale and character for what his evolving vision is for the piece, particularly located on the site. Coming soon. Thank you. Next slide.
A couple of quick points to add on the conversations around LRTA. Certainly one of the commitments was to monetize the LRTA where possible. And one of the greatest success stories on the reinvestment front of the project to date was on the day of closing back in September of 2021 for the F&B Financial Center, $7.18 million, $7.2 million was wired to the URA and to the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund for deployment into community-driven initiatives. Those are very, very significant dollars that will support a series of very important initiatives. As it relates to Block E and future projects, we're certainly advancing the LRTA process there. It's been, as everyone recognizes, a very difficult financing climate that has likely made LRTA monetization, if not impossible, and certainly very unlikely. After a year's worth of efforts, we just recently received our very first term sheet of a possible monetization that we're studying further to see if it has merit for further pursuit. And so I think that'll be part of efforts that are ongoing with URA staff. Next slide, please. The parking tax diversion, I think, is a very important element of the project. While there's no housing on Block E, the fact that the Block E parking garage and and related elements are able to create up to $8 million over a 20-year period to support housing affordability and stabilization efforts in the Hill District. It is a very significant element to the project. There's also, in the 20th year, a benefit to the citywide affordable housing fund that's projected to be in excess of $1 million. So several very important economic drivers for both the Greater Hill District and across the entirety of the city. And we have talked recently about an additional element of the project.
Next slide.
Yeah, on the next slide, that is the recurring revenue stream from the $2 surcharge on paid tickets. That is something that's going to really have an incredible benefit to the Lower Hill and its residents from the music venue. And that will be commemorated into language that's part of the disposition agreement that we're working on with URA staff for closing. And with that, we can advance to the next slide. I'd like to turn things over to our Vice President of Development, Mr. Bomani House.
Thank you, Boris. I'll be very brief. One of our core programs within our development process is making sure that we stay true to the CSIP goals, these 7 CSIP focus areas. Number 1, minority women, business enterprises. I'm going to touch on a few of our achievements thus far. Job creation, inclusionary and home ownership, housing programs, communications, reporting and tracking. Boris just spoke to our reports that go out monthly to the EMC, Sports Exhibition Authority, and the URA, and also the mayor's office on a monthly basis, and then on a quarterly basis. So I won't touch on that anymore. Wealth building initiatives, cultural and community legacy initiatives, and then coordinated community development strategies. And so as one of the foundational members of this document, this is very near and dear, and we carried it as a core program within how we deliver our development. Next slide. So I won't go through all of these, but just to kind of summarize on this, I want to kind of like pull out one or two of those, and that's on MWBE. So it was reported earlier that one of the outstanding documents is on our MWBE plan, but The preliminary plan has been submitted, and we've selected our construction manager, Carl Walker Construction. The pre-development phases have demonstrated that we're consistent with our CSIP commitments in terms of diversity. Of the nearly $1 million in spending, almost 900,000 of that have gone to minority-owned firms on the design side, the architectural engineering side. So we're very proud of that. With regard to the coordinated community development, I can tell you that the ongoing conversations with Live Nation and New Granada Theater with the Hill City C is one of the probably most iconic buildings in the Hill District today. And those conversations on how the programming will be coordinated over the calendar year is one example. And there are more. There's Big Tom's, there's the East Liberty Family Health Center, and a number of other AMNs and a number of others that have been demonstrated how we're not just building in the lower hill, but also in the middle and upper hill. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide. Next slide. You've heard from Wade Lipscomb of 333 Construction. I just want to stop here for a second to illustrate out of the $108 million in total subcontract awards, 45 million of those dollars have been allocated to minority and women-owned businesses. And Wade Lipscomb of 333 is one of them. He was on the call earlier. The one thing that we pull out is that not only of the M's and W's that have received these contract awards, we also wanted to focus on making sure that African-American owned businesses were, we kept a careful eye on those companies, and $24 million in awards have gone to African-American owned companies. Next slide. So Wade is just one of them. I wanted to go to this one because the capacity building efforts that we have in place to make sure that contractors can actually compete. The F&B program, that Access to Capital program, put $2 million to the URA to make sure that companies like 333 who are awarded on the Lower Hill site could receive up to $100,000 in business lines of credit. And so we're happy to announce that they were able to secure that business line of credit. And what it does is it helps them to pay union dues, pay labor dues, labor costs. And then also those monies can help them from month to month deal with purchasing and the like. So we're very happy about those capacity building efforts. This next slide just shows how we gathered in December to celebrate some of the contractors that were awarded on the Block G site and bring together also these contractors so that we could talk about the Block E site that we're discussing here today, so that they can move from block to block, building capacity and taking advantage of the upcoming opportunities. Next slide. And so we're going to have a similar one, similar informational in April, having already selected Carl Walker Construction as our CM. We're already engaged in making sure that they're using our database and others to meet with minority firms to make sure that they are well-informed, advanced, and early and often, so that they can take advantage of the upcoming opportunity. So that's coming up in April. I'm going to now turn it over to Dr. Ellis to talk about some of our First Source Center activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bomani. Next slide, please. So as you all know, and you have heard before, the First Source Center opened in 2021. This was right in the middle of the COVID pandemic. So honestly, we haven't had a ton of foot traffic, and we have engaged in a variety of different methods to engage. So, you know, anybody can call or text us. And if you're out there, everybody, our number is 412-223-7890. You can call or text at any time. We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. As you heard from Danielle, who called in earlier today. We have partnerships with construction training organizations. As you see, the icons that we have here, their logos are listed. And it's interesting because Sam Williamson talked about the disparate differences in participation. I can't emphasize enough, because I'm a historian, that disparity occurred post-slavery due to racial terror and outright discrimination. There's no way to wiggle our way around this. So it's going to take a full, all hands on deck to complete and to right this wrong. One of the ways that we can right the wrong is actually right there at the top, the A. Philip Randolph Institute. It exists for precisely this reason. He is the reason why we have a Black union, and so we owe a lot. We have to do a lot. Next, we have the Builders Guild. We work a lot with them. They have a wonderful program. We work with CARP, the Carpenter's Apprentice Readiness Program. And I think overall, in terms of building up the pipeline, we all knew that there was like this labor shortage and that we needed some workforce development. And that's why we partnered with the Pittsburgh Public Schools and the Career and Technical Education Program. And you all know it too, because the city of Pittsburgh partnered with PPS CTE. So it's very clear that everybody realizes that we all have to have a hand in this. We're doing our part. We are literally the portal. We are literally like the plug, and we just need everybody to help push people in our direction. So what else are we doing? Next slide. Obviously, we're supporting entrepreneurs like Fat Girls Are Cooking, and you'll hear about her more. What we do in terms of the First Source Center is that we go out to community events. We're always present. There we are. You can see us at block parties, at health. We go everywhere. We've also had our own job fair, which was one of our more successful activities. That's in the lower left corner. You all have seen this kind of scene often, but it matters that it was in the Hill House and that people came. And honestly, I want to be transparent. People came pushing their baby carriages and all. It was just a really wonderful event. And so we're going to replicate that, but this time we're going to do it even better. Next slide. I think yeah. Oh, so this covers the PPS CTE program. We have a full engagement with them. I'll stop here just for a second and say that our next phase with the CTE program is providing summer internships. So that's what we're working on right now. We have 2 already, but we're working with our contractors and subcontractors to see where can we plug in these seniors that have this experience and get them paid. It's at a minimum of $12 an hour. So these are not volunteer interns. These are paid internships. Next slide. I brought up Freedom House before and our partnership with UPMC, but it's important for you all to see it just because this is not just about renaming a parking, an EMT center attached to a parking garage. This is not just about putting pretty pictures on the wall. This is about creating other opportunities and real opportunities for young people to come in and be EMTs and fill this type of work gap as well. So let me go back to our job fair really quickly. We are partnering, our next job fair will be May 10th at the EIC, the Energy Innovation Center, and we're partnering with Land Terrell and the Master Builders Association, who just had a union job fair, a very successful one, February 1st. There were almost 300 registrants and over 200 who actually attended. So a really, really good rate, and it was a really, really good stats, and it's a union job fair. We're going to match our successful job fair with his successful job fair and have a very big one. Why does it matter? Well, because the unions had their own job fair, a very big one at the David Lawrence Convention Center. The first day when the students came from the PPS CTE program, it was very well attended. The second day when it was just open to the city of Pittsburgh for anybody to come, it was not well attended. So we need the whole city to participate in this project. And that is a part of what is in our workforce development summary, Mr. Williamson, and all. Next slide, please. Okay, and last but not least, a part of our workforce is hiring artists to do our artistic work. I've named all these people. You all are probably familiar with most of these people on this list. There's about 3 of them that are not from the Pittsburgh area, and we look forward to hearing their final proposals on March 31st. So overall, this is our project. We invite you all to be a part of something bigger. And to round this out, I'll turn it back over to Boris Kaplan, our Senior Vice President of Development.
And if we can advance to the last slide, please. So we're keenly focused on the task at hand. That's getting this project across the finish line in terms of a closing, both a real estate closing and a financial closing. Targeting a groundbreaking this summer. And then obviously delivering very important project elements over the next year and a half with the garage, the music venue, and then finally the urban open space. In the short term, after today's meeting, between today and the next time that we'll appear in front of the board, we do have another community meeting that's planned. It's part of our very consistent and very significant outreach efforts that Dr. Ellis described. So we are looking forward to answering any additional questions from the community between now and the next session in front of the board. And certainly we have some work to do with staff to dot I's and cross T's. But where this project stands today, it's at a very, very critical moment. And we think we have a window of time in which we can execute. And we look forward to working with our public partners to take that next step. So with that, we'll conclude our prepared remarks. We thank you for your patience, and we are looking forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you. We obviously covered a lot of ground through both presentations. So I guess I'd open up to my fellow board members if there's any questions, comments, or where we get started. I'm sure we'll have a number of them.
So I'll begin, if you don't mind. Just a quick comment and then a question really for staff. One, when we had this briefing back in October, maybe, at least half the list was incomplete. We started this briefing with, I believe, only 3 incomplete items. With that being said, that means the development team is going to have to work with staff over the next month in order to complete those items so that we can actually potentially go to a vote. Therefore, to the development team, if and when staff reaches out to you and asks you for information, documentation, I would highly suggest you quickly and respectfully respond. They're not doing it just to mess with you. They're doing it because they're necessary items. Second, question for Hannah. To the best of my knowledge, unless something has changed, aren't final approved MWE plans required?
I will need to check the option agreement to make sure I have the language correct, but the developer is required to provide an EORC approved and a co-seller approved MWBE plan to get to final vote.
Do we have an approved co-seller plan? I believe it was one of the incomplete items, correct?
That's correct.
And currently they have a preliminary approval from the EORC, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And we don't approve our plan until the EORC approves their plan, correct? Normally?
That's been the procedure thus far, yes.
Okay, if all that is true, then this sentence in your presentation, the development team indicated to URA staff that they do not intend to seek any additional approvals for the MWBE plan, but intends to simply submit updates as the project advances, is a rather baffling statement. Again, I'm going to suggest to the developer that please do what is necessary so that we can have completed plans in order for us to be able to take a vote. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman. We will absolutely work with staff and follow up quickly. We're aware of the requirements of Exhibit P in the option agreement. And to the extent that anything is not already satisfied, which we believe it largely is, we'll daylight that and respond. But, thank you for those comments.
Yeah, thank you. Duly noted.
I know that Representative Morato's in transit, so but she's still with us. I'm not sure if she's able to weigh in or not. Director Powell, I don't know if you had any questions or comments.
A lot of what I wanted to say, actually, Sam raised, so I'm appreciative to my fellow board member for that. I do want to speak to some of the public comment as well as the addressed comments to the public comment within the presentation about community engagement. I know that this is a huge project to wrap your arms around, and there's so many moving parts, but even outside of some of the more, I don't know, mandated community processes that you have to go through, I want to encourage you all to continue to ensure that there are other opportunities for people to engage and frankly understand the project. Sitting from where I'm sitting, it's very clear that there is a little bit of obviously concern, but also misconception about this project. And so I know that, you've listed off several ways that you are engaging in community in the Hill District and in the greater Hill District area, but continuing to ensure that updates on this project are available to Pittsburghers outside of that area, and Pittsburghers, frankly, writ large would be, I think, obviously very important to ensuring that there's clarity across all projects, clarity across all constituents, but I think will engender more community trust going forward.
Thank you so much, Ms. Powell. If I can just address just a couple of things. I want to stress because we were told about our time, we were flying through this presentation. And I just want to reiterate that we didn't even include the professional organizations and conferences that we have presented in front of. That includes Netroots Nation, real estate organizations. It's been a lot. And then on top of that, I can't stress enough that there is a misinformation campaign out there, and quite frankly, the caller with his friends is a part of the misinformation campaign. That misinformation campaign is tied to trying to leverage resources for particular people and organizations. And it's really unfair because we're doing so much. And Bomani and myself in particular, we care very deeply about the community that we came from, that we live in, and this entire city and region. So I don't want to mention names or anything like that, but it's not just misconception. We've had direct conversations with this person in particular, and it just seems like there's just a commitment to misunderstanding. And at that point, you just have to move forward and keep presenting the right information, because it is easy to get lost in all of what we're doing. But we have upcoming community meetings in April. You saw that we have the bidding information session April 5th. Carl Walker has started to interview already 2 weeks ago at the First Source Center. We have our First Source Center job fair on May 10th. And so all we can do is continue on with all of our positive development and positive engagement, which is truly shaped by community feedback. So I just wanted to be clear about that, because I do understand where everybody is coming from, but I also want you all to understand that there is a nefariousness about this that it just has to be addressed. So thank you for that.
And even, outside of that, the project has, even at the board level, has changed, in my mind, pretty drastically from what we initially, were thinking about in the ideation phase years ago. So I just, again, want to strongly encourage, as the project continues to shift, trying to unlock more audiences that can be aware of the new pieces of this project, but also other spaces in community that may not directly be in some of the spaces that you are more frequently engaged and connected with.
Thank you, Director Powell. I had a question sort of along similar lines to what Director Powell asked, at least as it manifests itself in the workforce, utilization I think, as Director Williamson noted, maybe, the poorly named manpower kind of plan, and then the also, MWBE. We had conversations back in November, and some of the ways that the information's presented kind of blurs the lines between the commitments made in Block G and those in Block E. I think it's important, one, as we're contemplating this, and certainly, if it's next month or sometime thereafter, have a vote before the board related to Block E that we're clear, right, about what the commitments are on Block E. It's certainly good to get updates on the commitments that you made to Block G. I think that is important to have that clarity and for the public accountability of it all. But for what we're contemplating, at least in Block E, along those lines, there's the site-wide commitments made for minority businesses, for women-owned businesses, for workforce. Where I'm interested in the connections between what your numbers are on Block G and then what they could be on Block E is we had this conversation a bit in November, is what have you learned, right? Like, where can you get better? And I think Director Powell's comments sort of speak to this as well. There's opportunities. Those are the numbers that sort of we set, and those are the floor that everyone's committed to. But that is not, if we want to kind of really sort of meet the spirit of the project, then, we ought to be demanding more of ourselves. And I think that is, where interests, I'd be interested in seeing what have you learned and how will we get better, on this. So you had a preliminary plan. That's great. I realize some of that's contingent on you hiring a general contractor. It sounds like you're down that path. So where are we now, and how do we firm these up, and how do we get better than what you did before? And then certainly on the next property as well. I realize I said there was going to be a question. It's really more of a comment, but I would invite you to respond.
Thank you for that comment. We're in our beginning stages. Let's everyone remember, we're trying to present an idea of how we'd like to approach Block B based on what we've accomplished on Block G. So in these beginning stages, we've already contracted with, or we have already selected a construction manager who has, and that was one of the lessons learned, is let's get these subs in, conversations with the construction manager early. And that's, you saw the slide back in December, we did that. I mean, within days of them getting on board, we had them in a room full of maybe 200 people who were interested in contract opportunities. And in fact, Chief Jake Pollock gave opening remarks in that engagement. And so that's one, we engage early and we engage often. Unprecedented engagement toward contractors. Another thing we learned was that we have to have a little bit more coordination, better cooperative coordination between the Urban Redevelopment Authority and the programs that have been propped up by F&B's money to help build capacity. We have $2 million there at the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and we just got our first awardee to receive a business line of credit. We need more examples of those who are able to take advantage of these opportunities so that we can better perform on site. So there's much more to do, and we'll as Councilman Lavelle has encouraged us to come back with you all with more details as to how this plan will roll out, but it's an iterative process, and we're committed.
On the, I get one of the substantive new developments related to the $2 per ticket at the concert venue surcharge. Do you have a sense from the teams at Live Nation and FSG, the number of events they're projecting there'll be, on an annual basis? I'm sure there's an amount that they need to have to, make the deal pencil. So, I mean, do we have any sense of that yet?
Yeah, Director Kyle, this is Craig. We know that question is being asked. You've asked it, others have asked it. We're trying to figure out how appropriately to describe in what will likely be a range. It's a highly variable set of conditions. And we think that everybody would benefit from some forecasting, and we're trying to figure out how to best position that, communicate it so it's productive.
Okay. I mean, I would just underscore, the comments that Councilman Lavelle, our vice chair made in terms of the responsiveness to staff. I realize there's a lot of information to get through this, not just from our disposition process, but what's spelled out in the option agreement. But, we have to also make sure that we're being stewards, of the public land and the way that we approach all of this. So they need time, adequate time to review everything before they're briefing us, before they're making, sort of those representations and able to explain very complicated financials and others, sets of information in advance. So, a number of things I know, came in sort of late. Sometimes that's the nature of it all, but would, encourage you to meet the deadlines that they set forth, so that we're able to, responsibly communicate this to the public and consider it, for ourselves, as we weigh, the decisions before us. So unless there's any other comments or questions from the board. No. Well, thank you all. With that, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Thank you
All right.
all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
We appreciate it.
We'll see you next month.
Thanks for your time.